All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So welcome everyone to today's presentation. Today is all about how to get to the cloud with the minimal amount of risk. So Komprise and Qumulo have a shared philosophy about how important modern file data management is. Today I'm joined by Keith Nargi. He's CTO for Qumulo. Keith, you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody out there. My name is Keith Nargi. I've been with Qumulo for the past 7 years. I'm really excited to be here with our friends over at Komprise talking about moving to the cloud and data management. So hope you all get something out of this.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So I'm Steve Perchinuski. I'm a director of product marketing at Komprise. And I think between you and me, if you put all of our storage experience together, it is ready for that midlife crisis, right?
Yeah.
You've been at Isilon. I was at NetApp for a bunch of years. We've seen a lot, right? And customers are excited to go to the cloud, but there's a lot of fear, right? That's one thing I think everybody knows it's a good idea. So today we really want to talk about how do we help you mitigate those risks? How do we help you, be confident when you move to the cloud?
Absolutely.
The advantages are clear. So one thing before we start, everybody, please ask your questions in the chat. We'll save a few minutes at the end and we'll come back to them. It's a live session today. So if you do have a question, please don't hold back. This is, where we get great value out of it. So let's just jump into, kind of the pain points. Like, what are we hearing for customers? Data growth is exploding, right? And this is old news. But, and it's especially the part that's growing is the unstructured part, right? The structured data tends to be fairly steady, but there's value in that unstructured data and there's reasons to hang on to it. And so it just keeps absolutely growing and growing. And kind of the default action in the past has been, I'll just buy more shelves. I'll just keep adding on. And the problem is that means your budget is not going to keep up with the growth. So the other part is, I would say, Keith, I think you'd agree, right? Multi-cloud is real. Most of our customers are using at least one of the major public cloud vendors. They've mainly got many different enterprise storage arrays. And while these things bring more choice, they're also silos, right? It's really hard to get visibility across all of them, hard to make smart decisions. And then lastly, you need efficiency. And what we mean by that, obviously we want to help you save money, right? This is all about budget, that's the top of the line. But the other part is, your data is valuable. And, a big part of moving to the cloud is going to be that you can run analytics against your data. We'll talk about some customer examples, like Pfizer, for instance, is moving data to the cloud and then able to run, clinical studies against that data in the future.
Yep.
So, Keith, I think, the answer is that, the philosophy of Komprise and Qumulo is we need an analytics-driven way to manage data. I think it's really about moving from, just simply, worrying, do I have enough storage on my array, to what is my data? What is it doing? And how do I make the smartest choices across all my environments for it?
Yeah. And, that's the analytics driven approach is really what a lot of customers are looking to do right now, because going to the cloud is really like building a brand new data center from the ground up. And when you start thinking of like, oh, I have to have a multi-data center, but now I need to have a multi-cloud strategy. And being able to make data-driven decisions as you go to the cloud really enhances your ability to be effective in that move from point A to point B. And really, the more data that you have, the better that your, not only the decisions you make about where you go to the cloud, but what you bring to the cloud, when you bring it to the cloud, and how effective your cloud implementation ultimately ends up becoming. And that's really what it's all about for both Qumulo and Komprise.
I fully agree. Yeah, it's not about just recreating what you have on-prem in the cloud. Let me just move to the next slide. Yeah.
So one of the big philosophies that both Qumulo and Komprise have is that you can't manage what you can't see. And if you take a historic look at what's been going on in the storage industry for the past 20 years, data growth is the only thing you can see, because visually the donut on every storage platform just continues to grow. But you can't make intelligent decisions anymore. And both Qumulo and Komprise believe that intelligent data-driven decisions are what you should be doing when it comes to managing the data that your organization uses to make movies, to build the next, life-saving vaccine, to figure out where you're going to go drill for oil. All of those are file-based data. And if you don't understand how it's being accessed, where the growth is coming from, it makes understanding and monetizing your enterprise-grade data very, very difficult. But more importantly, it makes it much more harder to manage it and understand, where am I going to go in the next 5 to 10 years with my cloud strategy? So being able to manage it and see it are both very valuable.
We actually did a big survey this summer, and the number one thing the customers told us was, It's lack of visibility into their data that's holding them back from going to the cloud or buying that next platform. And you just see, people kind of, hunkering down and just kind of repeating what they've always been doing because they're kind of scared to move forward.
Yeah.
So I want to give you a brief introduction to Komprise. So Komprise is, it is much more than a migration tool. It is really an analytics-driven data management tool. We are deployed at major Fortune 500 customers. And again, we're taking this approach where we're moving from storage management to data management. Gartner says, customers don't have a storage problem; they've got a data problem, and that philosophy is really being, I think, bared out or being validated, number one, by the analysts, but also by our customers. With 2x growth over the past year, we're seeing rapid adoption. I also think it's just kind of the right time with so many things happening. There's consolidations, people are making moves to the cloud, and they really appreciate the visibility that Komprise has. Once you see how it works, it's amazing the things that our customers are saying, right? They're finding data sets they didn't know, they're getting value out of their data. And for me, coming from my background, I actually worked with a lot of these products. I validated them against our object storage platform. And for me, Komprise was just so much simpler to run. And for me, it was a no-brainer to come here. And I think Qumulo has a very simple, similar philosophy, Keith.
Yeah, I mean, when we set out to build this company, it was really that there had been no advancements in the world of file data. The legacy platforms were, mid 90s, early 2000s, when a petabyte of data was just unmanageable or even unthinkable. And, every other technology that does file had to grow into petabyte scale. Qumulo was born in the post big data era. And we not only set out to solve a lot of the big data issues, but we also kind of set out to redefine what it means to interact with our customers. And one of the things about Qumulo is that we care about our customer success. And we have built one of the world's best customer success organizations that we manage to our customers. We build a product that is delightful to use, but even more importantly, our customer success team is top notch, and they work with our customers on a proactive basis versus a reactive basis. And we have an NPS score of 85 or greater for the last 8 quarters. And that net promoter means not like a big industry is saying, yes, they're good. It's our peers and peers in the industry and our customers who are saying, we love working with them. And, our last NPS was a score of 91, which is like up there with the likes of Tesla. We can brag about our product as much as we want, but we have been a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader for just recently announced for 2021 for the 4th year in a row. And we continue to move up and to the right. And we are a visionary in our space because we are disrupting, 20 plus years of legacy file, constraints. And we're building not only a platform that can run on-prem, but also in the cloud, and not just one cloud, but all of the clouds. And this is one of the things that we pride ourselves on. And this file data platform has been winning awards since we launched the product back in 2015, when nobody had ever heard of us. And we have just continued to grow not only the innovation of our technology, but we become a visionary leader for what we're doing in the file space. And our customers continue to buy from us, and we continue to grow our award-winning technology and innovate in a space that really is desperate for innovation. And the partnerships that we have with technology companies like Komprise really help further the technology that we have built, and giving visualization and data management, not just at the file level, but at the entire enterprise file level, is what Komprise helps Qumulo with.
Yeah, I agree. I think that goes right into the next slide here. There's this, real need for what we're calling a unified file data management platform. And I think, part of that key thing that you mentioned, right, is both these products are essentially born in the cloud, right? They work the same on the cloud as they do on-prem. They work on the same across clouds. And that gives you that freedom. Essentially takes the risk out, right? That you can go to Amazon if you want, or to Azure. It's going to be the same experience. It's very hard to paint yourself in a corner, I guess. And that's, I think, one of the fears that you have as a storage administrator. In the past, if you made a bad decision, it could haunt you for years. And for me, that's one of the biggest takeaways here.
Yeah. And, when you start out thinking to yourself, we're going to build the platform for the next generation of applications, you cannot do what legacy vendors have done, and that's build proprietary hardware, because the cloud doesn't buy a certain set of hardware. They buy in bulk and they build. And then they build these massively scalable systems that the software has to take advantage of. And Qumulo has never been married to a single proprietary hardware set. And that gives our customers the freedom of choice and flexibility. And even more importantly, portability. It gives us the ability to enable a true hybrid environment. And that hybrid environment means that I can start out on-prem and I can move to the cloud. I can cut over an application one at a time and meet the true needs of where my applications and business want to go. If one application wants to run in Google because they have a native, AI tool, then I can get the data over to Google. And then I can get, another application that needs facial recognition software that runs in AWS. And I can now run the same platform with the same analytics, the same visibility, and the same user experience on-prem and in any cloud. And you back that with a customer success organization that will support you no matter where you run. And now you've got a unified data management for your file. And then you have the visibility and analytics that Komprise can give. And you've got a really, successful implementation of a file data fabric that can run anywhere. And that's really how you can reduce the risk of going to the cloud.
Yeah, I think that's why we're getting such good feedback from our customers. I mean, look at the references we have together. There's a great story in the attachments about St. Luke's, an incredibly candid conversation with the storage administrator talking about their challenges, and then they're running Komprise and Qumulo together. So I love all the points you brought up. The other part is just cost, right? It's got to cost less than on-prem, right? And in the past, it's always been about, just kind of mirroring exactly what you have. And every 5 years, you buy it again and migrate it. And the costs have got to be lower. So that's the other part we give you deep visibility into, is the cost. So this is kind of the big picture. This is how it all works, right? So the first thing you need to do, right, before you make any decisions is know what you have. So Komprise and Qumulo lets you analyze the data you have and then create a plan around it. You can even do advanced things like tagging and classification, right? So think about reaching out to your line of business, your business owners. They can actually tag data sets and tell you to do different things with it. We really see the lines blurring between like traditional storage, IT, and the business. So a lot of innovation here. And the next part, once you've understood what you've got, now it's time to actually do something, right? So it may be that I've got a bunch of cold data and I want to tier that off to the cloud. And we say, archive transparently or tiering transparently. We mean that we are maintaining access to that data, both at the original source and in the destination in the cloud, through something called Komprise Transparent Movement Technology, where we actually use the native SIM links built right into the operating system, either Windows or Linux, to maintain that connectivity. And then the next choice is, do you want to migrate, right? Are you picking up and moving off of what you had before? Or is it, I still need to maintain that on-prem system and I want to replicate? So Komprise and Qumulo together let you do that from any NAS, from any unstructured data system. And the last part is take control. And what we mean by this is, we're putting you in the driver's seat. We're not locking your data in any proprietary format. Like Keith talked about on the previous slide before, the ability to say, I don't like my bill at Azure. I want to take it over to AWS or Wasabi, or you name it, right? You can take it over. And then the other part, I think the really kind of next gen part is, my data is no longer something I have to keep. It's something I want to keep because I'm going to get value out of it. I'm going to drive value out of this data set with analytics, with, different things in the cloud. Keith, I'll jump to this one.
Yeah. So a little bit of how Qumulo is doing this. We talked about our customer success and all that, but when you start thinking about moving to the cloud, you don't want to bring the silos back from the early 2000s. You want to be able to scale in a single namespace, and security is at the forefront of our product. And everything we deploy, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud, is secure with data at rest encryption, with over-the-wire encryption. And that means that we can run in both public and private clouds and know that your data is secure, because at the end of the day, your data is what drives your business. It's the engine of innovation. And when you start thinking about cloud, you want to be able to think about deployment via code. We have a complete complement of APIs that allow you to not only give deployment, but also management of your system over an API. But most importantly, it's all about the real-time visibility. When you start going to the cloud, you want to understand your data usage. You want to understand the activity. You want to know where the data is being generated from, where your hotspots are, what applications are taking advantage of this massively scalable system that provides you the same look and feel that you're used to on-prem, but now in the cloud. And that is really the power of what Qumulo gives our customers, that's built natively into our system, is this real-time visibility that you can now align your file usage in the cloud to your billing, because that becomes very, very valuable. But more importantly is if there is some kind of bottleneck when you get to the cloud, Qumulo software is going to help diagnose that, because you're going to start to understand your usage, your activity, where your growth is coming from, and what applications are talking, what applications need more compute. When you go to the cloud, time is no longer a constant, it's a variable. If you're in the media and entertainment space and you've got to render for a timeline to a studio, you turn the knob, you build a whole bunch of compute, and you can render as quickly as you want. And Qumulo can help you understand what that's going to look like from a storage footprint, as well as from a compute perspective. And that is the power of what Qumulo gives our customers in the cloud with our real-time visibility.
Yeah, perfect. I think let's jump to a customer example. I think it kind of will put everything together for us.
Sure.
So this is a customer, in the financial services space. They needed disaster recovery, right? So kind of the old way of doing this would just be, buy another data center, and that was absolutely not an option for them. So, they had a system with about 600 terabytes of data on it. And, kind of the first thought is, hey, we go with the same vendor we're with already, and we just enable that, vendor-based replication. The result was going to be, 2x the cost, 2x the administrative overhead. And, it just wasn't, feasible to do that. And really, they were already having some significant problems with like high file count. There were other issues here beyond the just, sheer capacity of the system. So we partnered together, Komprise and Qumulo. And, like we mentioned before, right, the first thing we did was we came in and we showed them how much of their data was cold. And it was significant, right? About half of their data was cold. And what they're able to do is move that data off to the cloud. In this case, it happened to be Azure. And so, they moved it off. They're able to maintain that native access. And so now the beautiful part is that they're able to right size Cloud Queue, right? So they're running Cloud Queue. It can now be effectively only when they need for the hot data, right? We can then move those links over to Cloud Queue. And then Keith, I thought the other part that was really interesting was kind of the small file issue they were having.
Yeah. So this customer had millions upon millions of very small files. And when they moved to Qumulo as a service, and just to explain that, Qumulo runs in Azure as a service. We manage the entire system for you. You just have to worry about the data. So when they moved over to Qumulo as a service and they saw the visualization of how much data that was on-prem and how much data was in the cloud, the number of files were equal, but the amount of capacity that was consumed was wildly different. Qumulo is so much more efficient in how we store small and large files that they saw an immediate savings by just going to the cloud and using Qumulo's data protection scheme, that they saw, almost a reduction in a third of their overall storage that they didn't anticipate getting when they went to the cloud, which is, a really big positive for them, because, they're looking at a cost structure based on what they were using on-prem, and that was drastically reduced by 2/3 when they got to the cloud.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, Qumulo is faster than the legacy system, right? So the experience from the VM in the cloud, right, when you take latency out, it's faster, right? It's just built to handle deep directory structures and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, clear value. So let me jump into a demo system and show you exactly how this works. Oh, there's the benefits, right? So this is the big one, right? I can't believe I was going to skip past this, right? 70% less than what they would have spent buying a secondary system, which wouldn't have had any of the benefits, right? They would have literally been just kind of recreating their same problems over again. And the other big part here is they've got open data format. So like they kind of felt trapped before, right? There with this vendor, legacy vendor, data was not going to be in an open format if they had chosen that legacy vendor's tools. So by going with Komprise and Qumulo, they've now got complete control of their data. And I'm kind of curious, right? If they ever do a disaster recovery failover to the cloud, like, why would they go back on prem? Right?
Yeah, we've talked to them about that. We don't know if they're gonna. They love it, and the fact that it's in the cloud. While you get the demo up, I can kind of talk about this.
Yeah, that.
In the cloud, they didn't have to rewrite their applications. They didn't have to change a single thing that they were doing on prem. Their business applications work because it's still following file formats. They didn't have to rewrite applications for blob. And if Azure turns out to not be the partner of choice, they can go to AWS or Google and not have to change the underlying platform, because Qumulo provides the same file platform irrespective of the cloud. But this is the meat and potatoes right here. This is what makes all of this happen.
Yeah. So are you seeing my screen, Keith?
Yes.
I want to make sure.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So, Komprise, as we mentioned, runs in the cloud, right? This is a fully managed service. So I'm logged into what we call our director right now. This is the dashboard. This is giving me visibility over multiple sites. And in this case, I only have one site. And this is a demo system, right? Where we've added a bunch of data. So it's, kind of more dramatic. but I'm able to see all of my sites. I'm able to get this analysis of my data so I can see what's going on. If I had active migrations running, they would show up here. There's all these things. I get this big overall view. So I'm not just managing Qumulo, but I'm also managing my other systems. So if I want to add a system, I'm just going to click Add Share. And you can see in this demo environment, we've got a whole bunch of, we've got kind of one of everything, right? We've got some NEP, we've got some Isilon. I've got Qumulo running in the cloud, CloudQ. This could be Azure or AWS. And I've also got Qumulo running on-prem. So if we go back to that St. Luke's example, right? This is what they're doing, right? They're running Qumulo on-prem. So the next part is, these are my sources. I'm going to be analyzing them and migrating and replicating or tiering my data. The other part is now my targets, right? So the targets are where do I move my data? So again, all the major cloud vendors, including things like Wasabi and even on-prem object, but also Qumulo, right? So again, back to that St. Luke's example, they're using Qumulo on-prem as the target, and they're doing some really cool stuff. So I definitely encourage you to go read that story. Very easy to add another target. So the next part is we've got the basic setup. How do we really understand what we have? So we've got something called deep analytics. So anytime we add one of these sources to the system, we are crawling that system in a non-disruptive manner, and we're collecting all the metadata for all the unstructured data in the system, and actually storing it behind the scenes in a fully managed Elasticsearch database. This can be in the cloud, or if you are a highly security sensitive customer who wants to do everything behind your firewall, we can do it behind your firewall too. And the cool thing is here, I can actually have, if I want, my business owners create queries for me to find these data sets. So for this example, I'm worried about my legacy SMB system. So I created a query just for legacy SMB. So just really simple, right? I'm just limiting my search to this. And I can immediately see I've got, 600 terabytes of data. I've got almost 7 million files, and I can see how much is cold. If I wanted to, I could drill down into the data types and quantity of files. You can really get a lot of information. And this is going to help me make a better choice about where I'm going. So again, it's all about removing that risk, right? If we're scared because we have, this is going to help us. So now that we understand our data, we can create a plan to go ahead and tier it off. So I'm clicking on the plan tab here. Got a little bit of latency here in my browser. And I want to go over here and select all shares and plan. And what I've done is create a plan for this legacy SMB system. So if I click on add shares, right, I'm just adding this one system. And then my plan here is that I'm going to tier any data that's 3 years or older to the cloud. And I've selected, my cloud target here is public cloud. And I immediately see on what we call our data donut, how much data is going to move. So if I, keep it here at 3 years, I'm going to move 83 terabytes of data. I can see what this is going to do to my costs, and you provide your own cost information so you can model this. So what we see a lot of customers doing is they start maybe moving older data. And when they see how well it works and that, the applications are still happy, they're like, let's save a little more, right? So I can go ahead and move that to a year. And now I'm being a little more aggressive. Now I'm really moving all my data that hasn't been touched to a year. So with this set, I would go ahead and activate the plan, and then we would start moving that data off to the cloud, right? Shrinking that footprint. And once that footprint shrunk, maybe now it's time to start doing replication or migration to Qumulo. So let me go to the Migrate tab. And I've actually got 2 jobs running here. So one is I'm doing a migration for my legacy NFS system. If I click on this, you can see I'm doing it to Qumulo on-prem. And the other thing you can see, there's multiple iterations. So this one's run for 290 iterations. And what we're doing is we're getting all the data we can in one go, and we're moving it over to that target of Qumulo. As we're doing it, we're checking for any errors. We're looking for absolute fidelity, on the move, right? So again, we're allaying any fears about, is what I have on-prem now what I have on the cloud, right? We can prove to you through an audit that our data is exactly what it should be. And just like Qumulo, this is a scale-out system, right? So I actually have these observers that are deployed adjacent to my data. So this runs in the cloud, the director, but my observers, the data movers, are adjacent to the data, right? So on-prem or in the cloud. So this is a migration job. Once I get that down to where there's a small amount of data left to move, on the weekend, I'll go ahead and make my source share read-only, and then I'll do that final cutover. So if I'm doing disaster recovery to the cloud to Qumulo, it's exactly the same thing, but it's a migration job that effectively just goes on forever, right? So I've got my NAS biz dev. I'm coming from Isilon, going to CloudQ. And I just let this run, right? So I can see here, how much is going in the last iteration. Very simple. We give you complete visibility into everything here. So Keith, any questions that are popping up as I show this? That was, that's kind of how easy it is. It's incredibly easy to add another one, right? I just select my source, pop it, and it'll ask as we go through a bunch of questions like, do you want to maintain, directories? Do you want to use, what's your destination going to be, right? So here, I'll just do home, and,
I think the big thing here is for anybody who's really interested in a deeper dive, we can arrange for the Komprise team to get in touch with you. And if you want a deep dive of Qumulo, the Qumulo team will be more than happy to do that. But let's kind of dive into a little bit of the Qumulo stuff. So we just recently introduced Recover Q, which is helping not only guard against disaster recovery from like natural events, fires, floods, but also the unseen ransomware attacks. And what we call it is the 2D, 2R approach, where we defend and detect natively within our system. And then if you have to, you can recover very quickly with a rapid restore from snatch ops and replications and resume your business. Recover Q is all about business continuity, because we know the data that you're storing inside of your file data platforms is the engine of innovation for your business. And Recover Q is an umbrella of a lot of features that we have built into our product to help, limit the surface area of your system that could be attacked. If you are attacked, identify suspicious activity in real time, and then immediately recover away from it and resume your business operations. That is really what Qumulo provides for our customers through Recover Q.
That's great. Another point is like the cloud targets we use can be immutable, right? So ransomware is obviously top of mind for everyone. So Qumulo really, this is a perfect example here. The data we move off the cloud can also go to an immutable target.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So are there any questions that are popping up? So there's a question about how do we maintain permissions and ACLs as we move to the cloud? So for Komprise, Qumulo will, if this was SMB, right? Qumulo is going to be part of your Active Directory. Komprise will also be part of your Active Directory. So that's how we handle SMB. For NFS, we move all those ACLs over. You get that exact same experience. So we maintain the permissions no matter where it's stored.
Yeah, and when data is moved from like a legacy system, whether it be an Isilon or a NetApp, one of the permissions will be moved along with it, and it will land on Qumulo. Qumulo has built a very, very, very robust and rich cross-protocol permissions infrastructure inside of our software. So when the data lands on a Qumulo and it writes it all as SMB, NTFS, ACL, and ACEs, we will do the translation if it's a multi-protocol access to ensure POSIX permissions are in check so that you still get that cross-protocol permissions as you land on the system.
That's a great point. Okay, if I right-size my Qumulo, meaning I'm running smaller Qumulo in the cloud, I assume is what they're asking, and then I move production to the cloud, can I scale that up?
Oh yeah, one of the key tenets is scalability of Qumulo. There are not many file systems in the cloud, including native like Amazon or Azure, even Google, that can provide a single namespace into the multi-petabytes. And so if you want to start super small, like 10 terabytes in the cloud, and grow to 4 petabytes, by all means, you can do that. The look and feel that you're used to on-prem, you get with Qumulo in the cloud. And we are the very first multi-petabyte scale out single namespace in the cloud.
Awesome. Well, Keith, this has been great. I mean, to me, it's just like, we're kind of pulling away the reasons that people have kind of resisted doing this in the past. I know, storage people, we're a conservative bunch, right? We don't get pats on the back when everything just keeps running, but you sure get in trouble when it doesn't. Yeah. So, if we take that risk away, we're able to help you make these better choices. I think it's amazing. And again, I would say this is incredibly low risk to try, right? You can deploy Komprise on-prem, let it crawl your environment, see what it is. Please reach out to our cloud, to our teams. We can hook you up with experts that can help. And the same for Qumulo. This is a very, kind of low friction thing to try out and see how it works for you.
Yeah. And, I would like to close with, I have more cloud conversations on a weekly basis now than I have ever had. And customers are looking for a way to move to the cloud. And they know that file data, more than any other data in their infrastructure, has a lot of gravity. Data gravity is a real thing. And that movement from one platform to another has always been hard. Multiply that by 4x when you start talking about moving from an on-prem system to a cloud. And Qumulo and Komprise really partner well to take that data gravity and make it so much more manageable, so much more easier to not only do, but also to understand. And that's the big part of it. Cutting over from one system to another has never been easy, but it's been done. Yep. When you start talking about not in the same data center, but outside of your data center and the data center in the cloud, you need to be able to see those iterations, the visibility, what's in check. Do I have the same file count on-prem as I have in the cloud? What's my cutover time going to look like? All of that data awareness, that visibility becomes so much more important when you make this transition. And our two companies really, really help anybody who's looking to make that transition from on-prem to the cloud.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is a clear, just this is what people want to do, especially with COVID. People taking data centers down. You've got a distributed workforce to support. The use cases are obvious. So Keith, I mean, this has been fantastic. I'm looking forward to working with you. And again, please reach out. This is very easy to try. And yeah, so we've got.
There is a question, and there is a question from another question that just came in. Perfect. Is a main Qumulo use case migrating off Isilon? What are the main advantages? So most of our customers, and we've got a lot, have migrated off of Isilon or NetApp. And the main advantages are, there is no small file tax. The instant visibility, you're not running another like third-party piece of software or a piece of software off box and a VM to do, non-real-time scanning of your system. There is no compromise between small and large files. Qumulo does a much better job of data protection and writing data into a system with no penalty for how it's written. We do intelligent promotion. So, one of the things that a lot of Isilon customers have is smart pools. So they buy like one tier of storage for active, another tier for archive, and then they set a policy to move it back and forth. But the data is never really where it needs to be. Qumulo has built a bunch of AI, ML-based caching algorithms to put your hottest, most active data in the highest performing tier of storage. So storage administrators don't have to worry about managing policies for where data might be. Applications and users will actually, based on access to that data, will put it right in the highest tier, most performing tier of storage. So it's really a single tier to rule them all. The other big thing is you're not locked into a hardware platform. Qumulo is software defined, and we have a hardware compatibility list that customers get to choose what they want to run their Qumulo software on.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point about smart pools, right? A lot of the vendors are offering their own tiering, but it's going to lock you into that vendor. Yep. And so if you use Komprise tiering, obviously we're moving that to the cloud, and the same with Qumulo tiering, right? You guys maintain that native access. So yeah. I think we have this similar philosophy of like we delight customers and keep them happy. They'll stay with us versus, kind of the old school, I got your data and you're now my customer.
There's a very great question here. And it's, what about very large files greater than 16 terabytes? This is an Isilon customer. And, my background is also Isilon. I spent a number of years there. And it used to be, 4 terabytes, and now they upped it. Qumulo has no max file size. We also have no max number of file limits. The system was designed to handle this. We have customers that have 100 terabyte files. I'm not talking data sets, 100 terabyte files. And those are customers that are in like the GIS mapping space, where they are building a very, very detailed 3D model map of the Earth's surface for a number of different things. And those files are massive, and they are way larger than 16 terabytes. And that's one of the reasons why they chose Qumulo, is because there was no other file platform out there that could handle that size. And we do it with ease.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about Qumulo. So my background really for the last 10 years has been all object storage. And I saw so many customers start to just hit the limits on what file could do. And I look at Qumulo's architecture, and they've solved it, right? They fixed it, right? I mean, you can really nerd out on the way you guys do inodes and the directory structure, but it's obvious that this was built from the ground up to handle these, kind of forward-looking challenges.
Yeah, customers were going to object because file couldn't scale the way object could. But at the end of the day, customers really just still wanted a file system. So we designed a file system that scaled like object.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yep. And I think that's why you guys are so well rated on Gartner, right? And that magic, distributed file. It just makes a ton of sense. Yep. Great. We got some questions. If you've got more, we're glad to hang on. Again, reach out, right? We are absolutely happy to get on here. info@qumulo.com or qumulo@komprise.com. We are glad to answer your questions and really do a deep dive. So, kind of had a quick snippet through that demo today, and I love to get on and mess with the nerd knobs. So just please reach out.
Yeah. Thank you all for your time. And, please reach out to Qumulo or Komprise, and our sales organization will get a hold of you.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time, Keith, today. Thanks everyone for joining. This has been great. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Stephen. Be good.